from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness, their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old gods.
Welcome back, everyone, to the StarLadder SLI League StarSeries Season 2. I'm Noxious, with me is Firebat. We're onwards to the final stages of the day. We've got losers round 2, and then we'll have the grand final opposing Stansivka versus whoever wins the next one between Kolento and Ostkaka. So they will be facing off against one another again. We saw them playing earlier. Kolento took it 4-3 over Ostkaka, and then, now that they're playing, there's a chance that Stansivka faces off against Kolento once again. So Kolento could just be repeating his matches all day long.
Hey, wasn't it 4-2 actually?
You're right.
I feel like it was 4-2.
I think you're right. I think Kolento and Ostkaka was a 4-2 match. Kranich Ostkaka certainly was. I know that. I know Ostkaka won 4-2 over Kranich, and Kolento took it 4-2 over Ostkaka at the end there. You're good. You're good at keeping track. That was a good spot.
Yeah,
it's been a long day. We've had a lot of long games, and I expect a lot more of those given the players that are coming up. Kolento, Ostkaka, and Stansivka are all well known for taking their time to make the right decisions, and they're not playing exactly the most aggressive decks.
No, it's been a really control-centric group, and coming down to this match, a rematch of before, what was the deciding factor last time they played against each other?
Kolento and Ostkaka, I think it really came down to the whole Shaman deck that Ostkaka was running. He was running a more aggressive list, and I think Kolento had something of a slower one, but one of the big things that Kolento's got going for him is that N'Zoth Paladin that took, I think, Ostkaka off guard a little bit, not expecting it in the match. Wasn't really prepared for that. Targeting it might have been something he wasn't sure about.
Yeah, although it came down to being a 4-2 in favor of Kolento, this match could still go anybody's way, because One of the biggest things in the last time they faced against each other was the fact that Ostkaka repeatedly was unable to get a win with his Shaman, which isn't something you can say happens all the time. So if, let's say, Ostkaka gets a win first try with his Shaman this time, then all of a sudden, maybe this series goes the other way and things start to get a little trickier.
Right. Well, it's one of the things with Conquest as well, right? So you don't necessarily know which deck is going to be your downfall, especially in lineups that you haven't prepared specifically for an opponent. I think the preparation that Ostkaka did was a very general one. His decks seem like they're able to target just about anyone in the group. And in the case of Kolento, the decision to bring the N'Zoth Paladin was just that expectation to find a lot of control decks. And he's been right. He's been spot on. The Freeze Mage from Ostkaka, I expect to be able to do quite a bit of work.
Yeah. Against we saw it fall to Kolento's Reno Lock before, but that's not always the case. It has a decent chance against Reno Lock. It has a decent chance against N'Zoth Paladin, Midrange Shaman, and Hunter. So the Freeze Mage from Ostkaka shouldn't be too big of a problem. He has that Patron Warrior, which is pretty bad against N'Zoth Paladin. It's okay against Hunter. It's pretty bad against Midrange Shaman and pretty bad against Reno Lock. So the Patron Warrior we can see from Ostkaka being a bit of a problem in the lineup. The Hybrid Shaman from Ostkaka should be okay. Last time it wasn't able to pull a lot of weight, but I imagine it most likely being able to pick up a win on the first try this time around.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very unlikely for Ostkaka to just blank on a Shaman all the way through the Conquest round. That would be so unlucky for him not to find a single good thing. Now, he did get good rolls last time, though. You know, he picked up a Totem Golem last second, got a lot of really decent RNG going his way when it comes to Shaman, but sometimes it's just not enough against your counter decks. So we'll see whether or not the Hunter from Kolento's Hunter seems like it could also be a bit of a problem for him. Not exactly the best deck he's got set up here.
Yeah, the two problem decks are Kolento's Hunter, just not being able to get a win against Hybrid Shaman, Zoo, Patron Warrior, or Freeze Mage. None of those are great matchups for Hunter. So the Hunter is the problem deck for Kolento. If he gets a win with that, I'd say Kolento's favorite in the series. And then the problem deck for Ostkaka is the Patron Warrior. If he's able to get a win with that, I'd say Ostkaka's favorite in the series. So it all just comes down to those two decks, which one gets out, because those are the two decks that really struggle the most in the lineups.
Yeah, it's been a long day for those players too. They've been sitting around waiting for their games to start, and Usually, you'll find that when the metagame, like a new expansion comes out, the metagame is very quick and aggressive because you can punish mistakes by players who haven't figured out the meta yet. But we're at a point, I think, where the metagame is, even though not fully figured out, largely stable, right? Like you have a lot of control mid-range decks that take a while. There's a lot of decision making that goes into some of those key turns in the mid-game. Control decks like Reno Lock have so many variants that it's hard to know them all by heart and how to play perfectly against them. Even Zoo has about 3 variants right now, which is like that's really diverse. There used to be 2 variants, and then it felt like a lot, and now we have 3. Sometimes even pushing towards the mid-range list. It's just too much information to keep track of.
Yeah, well, now that these players are a little bit farther rounds into the tournament, they know the exact archetypes of everybody's deck list, basically, and they've even played each other before, so they have a lot of inside information about what's going on, the play styles of their opponent's deck archetypes. So the change in information can definitely cause things to go different ways, even though this is a rematch, and Kolento, obviously the favorite, having won the previous series. Ostkaka with a little information could make it harder for Kolento to win, or even maybe pull one over on him.
Yeah, players are getting ready to start their game very soon. The freeze mage from Ostkaka hasn't really done too well for him, has it? I think one of the games ended up being a close one, or like a blowout at the end there with the Alex Straza play against Kranich. But against other players, it hasn't really done too much. Kolento, I think, defused it twice in a row.
Yeah. Freeze mage is one of those decks, too, where it's been in and out of the meta a lot. In the beginning of Standard and Whispers of the Old Gods, there were so many players playing Freeze Mage, and then it started falling out a little bit, and then we saw at the EU Championships, Freeze Mage coming back pretty strong, and a lot of players making some bold claims, calling Freeze Mage one of the best decks in the game. We had Inner with his quote of, "You're either Freeze Mage or you're not." Yeah, so he's saying, like, right. Freeze Mage is this crazy strong deck, and then we see in this group Freeze Mage being pretty underwhelming, and Ostkaka being the only player that's brought it. I personally don't think Freeze Mage is that strong in the meta, and it's a lot of players say it either is really strong or not that strong. No one's kind of like in the middle saying like Freeze Mage is okay. It's either great or terrible, which I guess it's kind of the nature of a polarized deck like Freeze Mage, but yeah, I've not been a fan of it as of late.
I think it all comes down. The issue with it, of course, nowadays is that you rarely ever find all the card draw early on, and you have no scientists to get you out of a bad spot. That being said, the first match will be Ostkaka's Patron Warrior, which we saw earlier against Kolento's mid-range Hunter, and this could be a really interesting match. It's kind of reminiscent of what we used to see before the Warsaw Commander nerf. I've seen a lot more of the new Tempo Warrior against Hunter. The Patron adds up a dimension of unremovable. Like, you just can't deal with it as Hunter right now. There's no way for you to take everything out.
And this is the match that is likely going to play the biggest impact in the series, because these are both the players' problem decks, and we talked about their play style before. They usually both of these players are no-nonsense. They like to play their weakest deck first, and if they get a win with it, great. Otherwise, they just kind of like either going 4-0 or 0-4, basically, in the series, you know? So they're both leading out with their weakest decks, and the decks that are most likely to have the most worst matchups first, and we're going to see right off the bat who's going to be the one on the defensive in this series and who's going to be the one that is going to be doing all the targeting.
I think both players have, these two hands are exceptional for both players. Kolento could have probably used a 2-drop that's a 3-2, but given the fact that the Armor Smith came down, I'm pretty sure he's happy about just having the coin, Animal Companion, picking up like a bow kill afterwards on whatever's on the board. It's a really decent curve for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, leads Bo right into Infested Wolf, right into Kodo, potentially coming down on a Bloodhoof Brave or what have you.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
Let's see where it lines up.
Finley for Ostkaka.
Not too bad for sure. I imagine we'll see Finley come out this turn, maybe an Acolyte of Pain with it.
You might want, oh yeah. So in this deck, like, life tapping yourself to death feels way too risky. Shapeshifting is a good middle ground, but life tapping is so powerful. But with the Acolyte and Battle Rage,
that's tough. That is really tough. I definitely see an argument that can be made for Shapeshift just because of Ostkaka's hand being Acolyte, Battle Rage, and Ghoul. Right. He has all of his card draw combos in his hand. Maybe you just take Shapeshift so you can contest the board a lot. It is a very minion board-centric matchup, so being able to fight for the board is extremely important, and having a hero power that lets you do that is really good, especially buffing your Fiery War Axe up to 4 attack, things like that are pretty strong. I think Druid.
Yeah, I tend to go for Shapeshift just because of the hand quality. If it wasn't for that card draw, I would snap the life tap.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what Ostkaka is deciding right now. He does go for the Druid, plays the Acolyte of Pain, will cycle a card. He's forcing the Hunter to decide whether or not he wants to kill the Acolyte or the Finley. Undoubtedly, that Acolyte is going to go down.
Well, I don't know about undoubtedly. He could kill the Finley and try and Kodo the Acolyte.
Right, and try to just wait one more turn, play the Wolf.
That'll telegraph Kodo immediately, though, to Ostkaka, and I guess you don't really want to be telegraphing that you have a Kodo in your hand.
The drawback, of course, is if you see him... I mean, if you let the Acolyte live, there's the possibility of Ghoul, there's the possibility of Blood to Ichor cycling a card. And I'm not sure if you're really happy to see that happen.
We could see Bloodhoof Brave come out this turn.
And then the 50-50 Kodo kill.
The 50-50 for the game right here, and potentially the series, because all of Kolento's decks are pretty great against Patron after this. If this Kodo lands on Bloodhoof Brave, there's like almost no way Ostkaka comes back.
And it does.
He whiffs, so the game continues.
So Kolento would love to attack here, but he knows he's surrendering his Stampeding Kodo if he does that to the follow-up attack from the Bloodhoof Brave. However, if he doesn't attack, then the same could happen, except the Ravaging Ghoul comes out and rages everything and pops the Spiderlings out of the Wolf. So, like, no matter what you do, that Shapeshift hero power gives Ostkaka the ability to pop your Wolf and possibly kill a Kodo. A bit tricky for Kolento there.
Yeah, presence of Shapeshift kind of makes me want to hold the attack there as Kolento. Otherwise, as you said, Ostkaka can just hero power down the Infested Wolf, play the Ghoul, clear the board completely. He has the 3-3 combating down nothing from Kolento's hand, and Kolento doesn't have a high main to reload, but he is going to take that risk around Ghoul there, and we'll see how it goes.
I think that was the correct play, just because you can't afford to let a Ghoul come out, pop your Wolf, and literally wipe your board completely. Whereas in this case, all you're feeding into your opponent is a bit more card draw if there's a Battle Rage. You might still stay on the board after this. It's really difficult for Kolento, though. Like, given the fact that there's no high main, how do you stabilize after this point? Wow, this is...
I like hero power and Ravaging Ghoul here.
Yeah. He's considering whether or not it's worth anything to Battle Rage instead of... Like, using Inner Rage to kill the Wolf and then Battle Raging after Ghoul. But then you don't take damage, so you're missing out on Battle Rage value later on. You could just go face and ignore the...
Okay, going face opens you up a little bit to potentially Unleash the Hounds or Quick Shot, but it's not that bad either way around. So...
Well, there is an Unleash.
Two of them, actually.
Yeah, I think you might play both. You've seen the Ghoul.
Yeah, you can Unleash the Hounds, get your value trade there. Ostkaka does have the Druid hero power to clean up, so you could maybe even Unleash and Deadly Shot the 3-3, but that feels ugly. You could Unleash, maybe just develop the huge Toad, or you could double Unleash. It's not terrible.
If you go for the one Unleash, you might keep the second one for the patrons, where you can buff up one of the Hounds with, say, Houndmaster or Leok from Second Companion later on. Okay. There's a lot of nuance to the way you can play this turn out, but I like this one. I think it keeps you on the board often enough, and if Patron comes out, it's usually not too big of a problem. Blood to Ichor for Ostkaka. Oh, man.
Blood to Ichor can allow Ostkaka to maintain on the board here. You can use Blood to Ichor and the hero power and the Inner Rage and the Karkon Elite. Just remove the board completely and set up a nice board of his own.
So you Blood to Ichor. Wow, this is really... Because one of the problems you've got is you do want to get card draw at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because this hand, even though it is, right now, able to stabilize the board, I'm not sure it wins the mid-range war long-term.
If your 2-2 gets damaged by the spit from the Toad, I think Battle Rage might be better than playing Karkon Elite. But if it doesn't get damaged, I think Karkon Elite's probably a little bit better.
And you have to Inner Rage the enemy Kodo just to get rid of it.
Yeah, he is going to just wait on the Battle Rage, try and get Battle Rage value next turn. If it doesn't show up, then he has at least Grom to be able to play next turn. So, yeah, this isn't the play that first came to mind when I looked at this board.
And the Unleash with the Houndmaster is going to find a decent board clear.
Yeah, these Unleashes from Kolento have been picking up value like every game. And Unleashes are a card that's been cut a lot of times from the mid-range Hunter deck, and it's interesting seeing Kolento be able to use it to such great effect.
So here, the going to face is it leaves you a bit vulnerable to War Axe, but quite frankly, even if that happens, he still has the trade with the Korkron, because for 6 mana left over, there's really no way for him to draw more than 1 card on the back of the Battle Rage, assuming he even has it. So Grom is definitely more appealing here. And look at that! Look at the threat of this. Look at the threat of this.
Well, Ostkaka is thinking about pushing 4 damage to face to try and play around Deadly Shot a little bit.
I like it. You're still forcing the trade anyway, and Deadly Shot would ruin you either way. There's no kill command with any kind of unleash play that could kill your Grom, so this Grom Hellscream, barring double quick shot or kill command quick shot, usually will only die to Deadly. Or a trade plus an
Interesting going for the tracking here. I was thinking maybe you could just go for kill command, Deadly Shot, play your dude.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Houndmaster alive. But he is going to look for tracking, try and find some additional options here.
It's a bit weird to me. Maybe he's looking for quick shot. Do the same thing on 7 and keep the kill command for later.
Yeah, be able to weave in a hero power or play the guy. Yeah.
We'll see. What is Kolento looking at? We can't see the discovery. Well, the equivalent of the discovery. I'm curious to know, though, like with Call of the Wild in his deck. Oh, I think quick shot is...
He has to give up the high main, but I do think quick shot is the pick.
Yeah. Does King Zelik win ever?
Yeah, he goes with the high main. Now he's gonna just.
All right,
kill
so he's
command.
gonna play. He's gonna make the play with Deadly Shot and just keep the 4/3, not develop the 2/3, and keep the high main on the back end. That's good too. Lots of pressure coming in, and Ostkaka's gonna have to take damage from this guy a few more times.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the tracking there though, because he could have just went for the Flame Juggler that turn, use tracking next turn, and if he picks up high main or Call of the Wild, be able to play it the following turn, and he has a 2/3 on the board right now.
All right, on top of the 4/3 that he's got here. I wonder if he was sticking 4 up for 7 mana open. I'm really curious.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's super interesting.
Oh, gets a bow on top of the high main, but
yeah, Ostkaka needs to pick up Patron here to have really much of a chance. And Kolento just weaving in hero powers, holding back the Flame Juggler.
Liking that.
Yeah, it just dies to the weapon.
Can actually give you the Whirlwind effect if you want. Yeah. That gives you the ability to Battle Rage for 2 cards, and it also trades into the high main.
What do you find? There's Patrons, 1 turn too late. Second War X.
Probably push 4 damage to face here, I imagine, right? Or
yeah.
The issue is if you trade, then your Bloodhoof doesn't die to the hyenas directly. But kill command, quick shot, bow, kind of all kill your Bloodhoof Brave anyway. But at the end of the day, if you want to kill the opponent, if you're going for hero power here, and you're pushing basically 12 off of your 3 remaining charges, that's still 1-off lethal in the long game.
Yeah, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. And Ostkaka could be putting that Flame Juggler on as being like a kill command, because we've seen Kolento hold it back so many turns. That it's definitely possible that it could be that. And the Houndmaster pickup from Kolento is really good here. He definitely wanted a taunt to be able to stop Ostkaka from just fiery Warxing his face down after he's forced to take 5 damage bowing down this Bloodhoof Brave.
Yeah, I think the Houndmaster might be what's going to steal the game there, because there's no way Ostkaka can push for the damage and finish off Kolento behind the taunt, and with damage coming in on 10 health with no way to gain life back. Kolento's mid-range hunter is taking the win. I really thought that the Patron Warrior had a good chance, but it seems like he whiffed on a lot of those mid-game pushes he was looking for.
Yeah, and this is really series defining, because now the rest of Kolento's decks are just so exceptional against the Patron Warrior. He has the N'Zoth Paladin, which does great against it. He's got the Rito Warlock, which does great against it, and the mid-range Shaman, which I guess does the worst against it of those decks. But
even
Patron, even then, it still has Lightning Storms and things like that it can pair with Spell Power, so it can get around to being able to deal with Patrons. It's basically just all of Kolento's remaining decks have an ability to kill a Patron board.
Oh, we'll see whether or not Ostkaka queues it up again, just try to get the win, lock it out, and then move on with other decks after that's done. And he will play his Zoo list up against the Kolento Shaman, so it looks like the mid-range Shaman up against Zoo. I feel like they both, like, Shaman and Zoo feel like they're playing similarly. Usually Zoo is better, but because of Storm and mid-range, that gives the Shaman a bit more fighting power than just playing pure aggro.
Yeah, definitely a better chance than Aggro Shaman has, but still not very good for the Shaman. It's definitely Shaman's worst matchup by a decent margin. So
With a hand like that,
yeah, that's
you can do a lot of work though, right? It's just one of those hands.
Yeah.
So Ostkaka does have the opener with Flame Imp plus Voidwalker. It's only weak to Flame Tongue, but that's barely weak.
Yeah, you still got to be able to trade the Flame Imp into the Flame Tongue if Flame Tongue
Exactly.
comes out, and most importantly, you set yourself up in a position to deal with their strongest turn 2 play, which is Totem Golem. This way you can just play the Direwolf Alpha, it buffs the Flame Imp up to 4 attack, you kill the Totem Golem with it, and the Squire sits there doing basically nothing. So making sure to get that Flame Imp out there is the most important part of that turn. If you choose to go with Possessed Villager, it's a lot more awkward against Totem Golem.
Yeah, so here Kolento had the option, of course, to just use his totem, also weaving in the late game value of Thing from Below. But by doing this, he's forcing another way to
that's
protect the
a bit
flame.
tough.
Yeah, pretty good. No need to life tap in spots like these.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Flame Imp Possessed Villager come out. It's really strong presence on the board, and
On the flip side, though, that Feral Spirit's actually not too bad. The fact that it dies, like one of the halves died to Flame Imp. Oh, wow.
The overload is the awkward part, though, with Feral Spirits. You have
So
2
you might
mana the
just
following
swap fire
turn.
this turn. Right, but that's kind of okay since your totem play is usually fine. The fact that you're killing a 3-1 with your 1-1 is okay. I guess the nightmare scenario is Abusive Sergeant comes out.
Yeah,
That would be the absolute worst. But I think everything else is
Overwhelming might just be good enough, though.
interesting. So you would have a 2-2 and a 2-1 at the end of that turn.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have the leftover villager plus the Direwolf Alpha on board. And the opponent's got 2 mana only to play, so that really leaves him with Stormcrack, which we've seen earlier, Lightning Bolts, Tunnel Chalks, Totem Golems, Hero Power. There's still a lot of plays Shaman can make, but you are diminishing the amount of options they've got by going for that. Is Overwhelming worth it here, man? It seems like
I would do it every time.
it's a necessary play, but it feels so bad.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy if Things from Below start coming out really soon, but I really like it. Your Zoo, you want to have maintained board, deny your opponent from getting bored. Now, if your opponent doesn't have anything besides Totem, they probably lose the game from that position.
Yeah, they'd have to get a crazy storm sometime in the mid game, and Rockbiter number 2 comes out to kill the Direwolf Alpha. So no more Rockbiter Burst from Doomhammer. Ostkaka knows that much. Do you play the big dude? There's no totems played, so Thing from Below still can't be done, no matter what.
Yeah, it's not too bad. 4-4 for 4, I guess, is good enough here. Gormak coming down naked.
And the Manatide Totem from Tuskar to Temic will probably do it. It's Stoneclaw. Alright, that's a really good minion to get here.
Not a terrible one, for sure.
Skaka's probably pretty happy to have the Dire Wolf here, because that Stoneclaw Totem would have been a really huge problem otherwise. Like, you have to waste so much damage into it just to get rid of it. Soulfire. Okay.
Yeah, Soulfire's pretty good pickup here. Allows him to take care of that 3-2 for only 1 mana, and now he can just clear off these totems and feel pretty safe around Lightning Storm just because Gormak survives most of the time.
Yeah,
It is a lot of
wasting
damage,
5
though.
damage feels bad, but you have to commit to it. Otherwise, a storm will simply remove you from this game entirely.
Fire Elemental comes down. Ostkaka no longer has that power of overwhelming because he was put in an awkward situation and he had to use it to maintain board earlier, so doesn't have the Soulfire either.
It's a more board flood, but the storm is there for Kolento. He hasn't had to use it just yet.
And neither of these minions die to Storm, though, for Ostkaka, so even though they are really, like, not great minions, simply because you float so much mana, but they don't die to Storm, so they get to keep you on the board, dealing chip damage. They're not the worst possible case. Just pretty bad.
Alright, Kolento picks up another one of those somewhat awkward minions to play. Now, there's Doom Guards in Ostkaka's deck, so those can come off the top anytime. The fact that he hasn't had to life tap this game is pretty impressive, actually. He's been just on point with playing minions. And aside from the last turn, where he had to just tap into another one-drop, I think everything lined up pretty well for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Kolento here, I guess you Totem try and search for the potential spell power to give yourself a chance to 50-50 down the Gormak with Storm if you so choose to.
Could you play Mana Tide? Is Mana Tide threatening enough that you're like, because Mana Tide alone is enough to like put damage away, and you're still clearing off the 2/2, the 1/1, and you can finish off one of the other 1/1s and put your own on the board. So
Sure.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're forcing trades out of the way.
Okay. Protect Mana Tide, draw infinite cards, win game. Sounds like a good game plan.
Oh.
Night Juggler may have something to say about that, though.
Yeah, definitely. So wherever this goes besides face is great, basically, right? Wow.
You cursed it.
I am sorry. I should
Okay.
stop. I should stop this.
Yeah, that storm play from Kolento, very good there. Able to get multiple draws off his Mana Tide, and he's taking back
go.
the board.
And he's got the 7/7 for 4 mana with a Flame Tongue to clean up the Knife Juggler and the Void Walker at the same time. And even
Yeah.
though the Mana Tide is vulnerable to the 1/1, that's irrelevant at this stage. It's done more than it had to. 2 card draws, killed something. Let it do what it wants to at this point.
Yeah, it's going to kill another thing, too. So it draws 2 cards, kills 2 things. What a monster.
And Imp getting boss, even though it's useful, is not game-winning just
Wow.
yet. Oh, that still does nothing.
Yeah, the storm just really sealed the deal. And Ostkaka just hitting small minions, like those crucial mid-game turns on turns 5 and 6, where he just like tapped into 2 1-drops and hung 2 mana was so bad for him. If he had hit like an Argus there or something bigger, or maybe if he had tapped the previous turn and tried to set up Gormok, he could be in a better spot there. If he had known those draws were coming, it was just a really awkward, clunky set of draws coming out for him, not able to get very much value out of his cards.
Well, the game's not over yet. There's a slight chance Ostkaka somehow runs away with this, but I don't see how he's going to push 14 damage with a 7/7 on the board.
Yeah, he would have needed like Peddler into Corruption.
Sure.
And have like Abusive to kill the Flame Tongue or something weird to be able to come out of this game on top. He's trading in his 1/1 into a 3/1 to limit the amount of damage on the board more effectively. He's able to remove way more damage this way, because if you kill the Mana Tide, you don't actually remove any damage because it just slides over into the Faceless.
Well, if you want to go for the Valiant, you're probably safe enough to do so. But the save, I guess, just think from below Valiant and push 9 to phase. Let the Zoo do his thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine a way that you die if you do that, right? Because this guy is only going to have 3 cards to work with, and only if he chooses to go for 3 cards, then it's only 7 mana to work with. So he can go Power Overwhelming, Doomguard is his max damage. Unless he hits like Doomguard first, he goes Power Overwhelming, then plays Doomguard and trades the Doomguard, then taps and hits Soulfire, or another Power Overwhelming. Then his max damage gets up to.
And it's still not enough. Like, regardless of how you look at it, it's still
only
not enough.
10 that way. So, also clearing off the board, though, limits Ostkaka's max damage as well and sets up lethal. So there are the 2 different ways to do it there. Both set up lethal and give Ostkaka no outs.
So this is kind of the power of mid-range Shaman. Like, instead of aggro Shaman winning, like, fighting off against Zoo, mid-range Shaman has a much better matchup. Like, this Lightning Storm sometimes doesn't even have to hit too much. I remember when everything was sticky in Zoo, it's a lot better fighting off against mid-range Shaman, because everything comes back to life. But in this current environment, yes, you do flood the board, but everything dies once. And if you get back 1/1s without Definitive Argus, there's no follow-up push. And he had to use Direwolf Alphas very early in the game, which means those 1/1s in the mid-game had no trading up potential, no Abusive Sergeant to support them. Ostkaka not getting the draws he was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it came down to. Kolento has the Lightning Storm, so that's step 1. Step 2, he gets a decent board to Lightning Storm, so it works out for him there. And then step 3, Ostkaka's reload was just nothing. He just taps into 1-drops and has just such a small board after that, so that Kolento can then just tempo him out with things like Fire Elemental and be totally fine. So
yeah, put a Forbidden Ritual there with a Sea Giant, and maybe we're talking about a very different outcome.
Yeah, if you were to hit Defender of Argus, Forbidden Ritual, Doomguard, and those stages right there after the Storm, it's a totally different outcome. But that's why the matchup isn't 100% one way or the other. I mean, it's favored for Zoo, but Shaman definitely has its windows of opportunity, and we saw one of those windows of opportunity come out there.
Wow, this is a really good opening by Ostkaka. The Zoo opening here is devastating. One of the things that is pretty bad about Reno Lock against Zoo is the fact that, number one, their healing is pretty limited in what they can do besides Cold Apothecary healing them for a lot and getting Reno on curve. The issue is they don't have Dark Bomb anymore, and Demon Wrath is the earliest AoE they've got, and it's pretty ineffective against other Zulists if they play demons.
Yeah, and no Dark Bomb anymore.
Right,
It's
that's
huge.
tough, man.
Nothing to kill this Flame Juggler. Like, coin Shadow Bolt or coin Demon Wrath are his only ways to really deal with this Flame Juggler, and in both cases, the Flame Imp sticks around, and he's messing up his curve for the whole game, but if he doesn't kill it, he just takes so much damage. We see him go with the coin Shadow Bolt here to set up for the Demon Wrath in the following turn to clear.
Yeah, I think I like that play quite a bit. I mean, the Knife Juggler is a threat, but the upside of it is it dies to Demon Wrath at least, whereas the Knife Juggler doesn't. So he's no longer a priority target for when you've got that AoE in hand.
Yeah, so let's see if Ostkaka maybe makes the read here. When you see your opponent go coin 3-drop, you assume that they have a follow-up 3-drop, so the things that they could be playing after this would be Imp Gang Boss or Demon Wrath. Basically, yeah. Those are like, or Earthen Ring Farseer, I guess. Those are the few 3-drops, but you gotta think, why did he kill my Flame Imp instead of my Knife Juggler?
Yeah, he's gonna have some kind of way to clear it all up, and one of those ways is specifically what you mentioned.
Yeah, so we see Ostkaka play around Demon Wrath perfectly here. He develops his 2 minions that don't die to Demon Wrath, and although he hangs mana, it makes Kolento's turn a lot more awkward because Kolento just telegraphed this Demon Wrath to him.
And he has to play it either as well because he needs to get rid of that Juggler before a Forbidden Ritual comes out on turn 4. He takes 4 damage for no reason, and then he has the Demon Wrath again, and Ostkaka gets to reload with a bit more mana available to him.
Yep. So yeah, Kolento forced in an awkward situation, and Ostkaka plays around it.
It's very good. Honestly, Ostkaka's play was sick. That was a really good read, and being mana inefficient is criticized a lot. But I feel like these two players mind game each other a ton, more so than I think I've ever seen two players do so. Life Coach occasionally will do it as well, but Kolento and Ostkaka against one another seem to do it all the time.
Yeah, it's always fun watching them play against each other. So we do see here, though, just the flood of minions now that the AoE is gone, and if Kolento, he doesn't pick up a Hellfire, it's going to be really tough for him to fight back this board. It's just so much damage staring him in the face.
And the Twilight Drake looks like the card you want to play, but the problem is, Power of Overwhelming is in that deck. There's the possibility of Soulfire also being in the hand after a Peddler play, for instance. I mean, Doomguard could be the card in hand for Ostkaka, and suddenly your Twilight Drake doesn't look good. Everything is awkward about this.
Yeah. He goes with Spellbreaker, tries to limit the damage, removes 2 damage from the board in the immediate. He's just trying to live long enough to get towards his Reno and his AoEs and things like that. Ostkaka is able to here to tap. And I think we're going to see the sticky minion come down, but we could see the push.
I don't mind Villager as well. One of the upsides of playing the Villager is Villager in the 1/1, the 2/1 is that you need to get in there before Hellfire comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just get in there the fastest you can instead of playing the Imp Gang boss. Yeah, the Imp Gang boss represents more stickiness, but that's the point. Is later on when Hellfire is possible or Shadow Flame, then at least you'll have the Imp Gang boss left over. And Faceless doesn't do very much. The Drake Soulfire seems like the only play.
Yeah.
Reno could be drawn, so there's that.
Yeah, he's got to hope that he keeps Emperor or draws Reno, and maybe he has enough health to play Emperor into a Twisting Nether.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Double ouch.
Wow. Things are lining up for Ostkaka this game around with the Zoo. He has those late game threats, unlike when against the Shaman where he didn't have any of the finishers and sort of just slowly fizzled out. Now, he's going to be able to finish.
Yeah. Not sure exactly what Gul'dan has to do with Argus. Like, this guy's a Draenei. There's almost nothing to do with Warlocks. I have to wonder, though, on one end, when you play Zoo against Reno Lock, you can't play around Reno. But the fact that you played around Demon Wrath, we mentioned a bit earlier when we were watching a similar matchup, like, you don't play around anything in this type of match because it's Reno Lock, and they only have a single copy of everything.
Well, unless they signal it.
Right, but was the signaling that crazily obvious? If it was Imp Gang Boss, was it still the correct play? If it wasn't Demon Wrath, let's say.
Yeah, it could have been Imp Gang Boss too, but it's more likely they Shadow Bolt the Juggler if it's Imp Gang Boss.
I see.
I feel like if Kolento would have Shadow Bolted the... Well, no, he can't. He can't just Shadow Bolt the Juggler.
The Juggler, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's fairly obvious, yeah. If you really slow down and think about why my opponent did that, because it's very strange, right?
Yeah.
Then it becomes clear. I mean, overall, it's still a really great read from Ostkaka, but yeah, it's why he's a good player, why he's a top player. He's going to make that read every time.
All right, Freeze Mage against N'Zoth Paladin. Now, one of the things that people used to say is you can't lose against a Paladin as Freeze Mage, but Forbidden Healing makes it a bit more difficult, where you have to burst them down in one fell swoop if you want to get the win. Because letting them heal back up after Forbidden Healing with that Alexstrasza can be very tough. And even if you have it, Humility, Forbidden Healing still puts you back where you were.
Yeah, the key thing in this matchup is just the Freeze Mage if they're able to get draw or not. And we see already he has Loot Hoarder and Arcane Intellect, so I'd say the Freeze Mage is at a huge favorite to be able to take this game. He already has Emperor, but you don't really want that till a bit later on, but he already has Frostbolt, Ice Lances, so he's getting close to having enough cards to maybe assemble that OTK off the Emperor proc anyway.
Yeah, this is a play here he's making, which is great, where he's putting some damage and pressure on the mage, which is kind of what you want to do, and also forcing Ostkaka to use mana if he wants to get rid of that Wild Pyromancer at all. Ostkaka's content with just drawing cards. I'll take damage, alright. There's no way I die to your 6 damage a turn.
Sure, yeah. He may have to start answering it next turn when he can do so more mana efficiently, like trading in. He was thinking about there, the hesitation, I think, was if he wanted to trade in the 1-1 into the 3-2 so he could set up to Frostbolt Ping the following turn, but this is assuming Kolento is going to go all face, so he's going to squeeze in his 1 extra damage here, I think. And we could see maybe Kolento try and play around the Ping on his 3-2.
Yeah, there's the possibility of that, but I think pushing 9 damage this turn is pretty sweet. You've also got the Wild Pyro Hero Power Play, which lets you trade into, again, the 1-1 as you mentioned. You are forcing early Novas. You're forcing Doomsayer on the coin. It doesn't look like much, but that's a ton of damage coming from Kolento next turn. I mean, we're talking 10 damage already from a N'Zoth Paladin, of all things. Doomsayer dies to Kodo, so Kolento doesn't care.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. He takes the trade with the Aldor Peacekeeper to protect his potential 3-1 from, or his 3-2 from being traded into by the Loot Hoarder and the Ping. So Ostkaka already forced in a situation to Frost Nova on turn 4 against N'Zoth Paladin.
He will be happy to go for the Coin Blizzard after that, so it's really not that bad. But again, it just goes to show that the Paladin, even Paladins have to put pressure on Freeze Mage. Like, that is how dangerous letting that deck draw as much as it wants is. Has the Pyroblast, double Ice Lance, Frostbolt, there, like Forgotten Torch. There's a lot of damage already set up for that Emperor.
Yeah, Pyroblast not really a great one, and Forgotten Torch not a great one either. Usually you want to be getting those Roaring Torches in there, or those Fireballs, so you can really accumulate an OTK. It's usually like you got to hit 4 pieces, and I would call this 3 pieces right now. So you want to wait for either a Fireball or a Roaring Torch or a Thalnos to be able to play the Emperor down to have a decent chance of finding an OTK, full 30 OTK.
Yeah, you can keep cycling the Acolyte of Pain for a bit longer. You're going to have to ping it right off the bat, knowing full well Kolento plays 2 Kodos, so... You'd ping this every day. Oh, okay, so here's the question. Is there a chance Ostkaka goes Acolyte Novice and simply does not ping it? Or is that... Because, I mean, you could ping your own Acolyte for the same effect as Novice. It's really just down to if he thinks he can play both minions.
If you don't ping your Acolyte, you're essentially removing a card draw from your deck, right? You draw the same cards in the immediate, but the downside is you can never ping the Acolyte to get the 2 cards out of your Acolyte. So
again,
yeah, your Novice gets 1, your Acolyte gets 1, whereas your Novice is going to get 1 later on, and you could guarantee that your Acolyte gets 2 in the immediate, which could be a bit stronger. Ostkaka feels like he has enough burn to make the OTK happen.
Well, let's see if he's right. Let's see if he's right.
Yeah,
I did not anticipate the Emperor this early, to be honest with you.
11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
20... Yeah. I mean, he's got 24 now, but if he picks up another piece, he could do it. But that's giving the opportunity to Kolento to heal up and stabilize, right? Like, it's not... I don't think without...
No, he's not going for it now. It's just eventually at the end of the game...
He'll have the burst, yes.
He needs to figure out a way that if his Emperor discount allows him to deal 30 damage in 1 turn. So what combination of cards with double Ice Lance, Frostbolt being discounted allow him to do 30 damage?
Another Frostbolt, Roaring Torch from the Forgotten, possibly.
Yeah, if he can get double Roaring Torch in with this, which is 12 damage for 6 mana, and then he has the Frostbolt to make it 8 mana, and then the other Frostbolt that he has in his hand to make it 9 mana, and then the 2 Ice Lances, so he can go 12, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So there's only like 26.
Yeah, I see 24 baseline, and then maybe an extra 2 if he weaves in, if he gets the Roaring Torches. later on. Blood Mage Thalnos helps a lot, but
Yeah, with Blood Mage Thalnos, I think he can get 28. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a full 30 combo there possible. So he does need to use Pyroblast to set up a lethal, and now it gets weirder. But he felt like Emperor was the strongest play on the board and wanted to go for it. So he's not going to have 30 damage available to him by the end of this game, I don't believe. And unless he's playing like a weird card like Evolved Kobold or something.
I was going to mention
awesome.
Evolved Kobold. Do you think
Yeah.
Ostkaka would bring that? The thing is, even if he does, it's kind of the same as playing Blood Mage plus Kobold Geomancer in this case, given that he didn't discount it. Because if you hit the Evolved Kobold with a discount, that's 2 spell damage for 3 mana. It's kind of... I don't know, I feel like the Emperor was really early given the Acolyte potential. You know, keep cycling.
Well, it's just the fact that there's the Kodo on the board and he's afraid of the second Kodo. And so his plays were super weak there and he had the worry of overdrawing with his hand. So it was really awkward there and he felt like, I guess, just get it out of the way now and force my opponent to deal with it so he can't develop too much and try and find a lethal later on in the game.
Yeah. Well, picks up another card draw engine. I mean, he's flooded in card draw every single time we see him play Freeze Mage. He does decide to kill the 1/1 for his opponent. Alright, so he doesn't plan to use Blizzard anytime soon. He's trying to see if the second Kodo is there to be played. And Kolento picks up what little value he'll ever get out of Consecration.
Allows him to push a little bit of damage, not too bad.
It's quite a bit of damage at this stage. There's no Ice Block, no Ice Barrier. Honestly, Ostkaka is taking quite a bit of damage with no real defensive measure set up just yet.
The Flame Strike top deck's pretty good for slowing down the board, makes it so he doesn't have to freeze in the future turns, which allows him to draw a lot more flexibly, assuming Kolento doesn't pick up more pressure.
And that's pressure,
there's
all right.
pressure.
The best pressure. That's
Yeah.
the one you want to have against a mage. The problem for Ostkaka right now is that he has to handle this Ragnaros not only like efficiently without removing all the burn he's got, because otherwise he throws away the win condition, but also without dying to follow up aggression, because this Rag put him on 8, and he's nowhere near getting a lethal right away.
You Pyroblasted, right?
I mean, yeah, sure, there's no 5 damage outcome from Kolento. With the weapon in hand, he's got 3. I can't see anything hitting you for 5 right away, aside from this Rag, which was the only source of burst.
Yeah, he doesn't have any other options besides Pyroblasted, which is not a bad option to use against Rag. It's not your flexible burn, so you don't feel too bad just throwing it away like that. So,
Yeah, I like it.
there's 5 damage.
Doomsayer. Kill the Sylve.
Well, I feel like you would kill the Sylph first, then just play the Doomsayer to try and stall the turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then you Solemn Vigil, otherwise kind of punishes you. You might be able to cycle with it. And Ice Barrier, Ice Block finally are found for Ostkaka, so he gets a little bit of breathing room here, knowing full well he's not going to die right away. But he still has to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. Have we seen a Spellbreaker in Kolento's Paladin list? I'm curious, because that freeze mechanic is one of those things that could throw a wrench in Ostkaka's plan.
I don't believe we've seen it yet, but there's definitely a possibility that it's there. It's a common tech card in N'Zoth Paladin, but I imagine here from Ostkaka he just plays both the Secrets and Arcane Intellect, continues cycling, or does he overdraw doing that?
No, because he's playing 2 cards, I think he's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. He'll be
Yeah, he's
exactly
fine.
at 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the play I'd favor seeing the most. I don't think the board's worth freezing. Ragnaros is already gone. Your opponent's potential burst damage just isn't enough to ever pop you from that situation, so I'd feel pretty comfortable going for the double secret draw.
And he's going to try to cycle a Forgotten Torch, or at least think about cycling the Forgotten Torch. One of the cool things to do as Freeze Mage, and that's kind of an obvious one for Freeze Mage players, is if you force your opponent to use his Forbidden Healing when he's very, like at 25 or 24 health, it just feels bad to use it then because it feels like you're not remotely dead. But that's exactly where the Mage wants you, because that's when they can burst you down without needing to have 30.
Yeah, we see Ostkaka accumulates a lot of damage in his hand. He's got 6, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 22, 24 damage.
He's got lethal here. If Kolento does not use Forbidden Healing, even for 4 health, and there's a chance Kolento doesn't do it because he expects Alexstrasza to come out right afterwards, and I think Kolento's just dead. That's it.
Yeah, it's a pretty brilliant lethal setup there for Ostkaka, just optimizing his chances of finding the Roaring Torch. If he finds Roaring Torch Fireball, sets up lethal.
And he gets it. Honestly, that was exactly... Again, this type of play is kind of expected to happen from mages, but it's one of those things that I think newer Freeze Mage players don't spot very often. It's a setup that takes a bit of time. It takes a lot of understanding of the matchup to see why you would want your opponent a little bit lower than 30. I think when he went for the Emperor early, he committed to something like this, lethal-wise.
Yeah, being able to hit those 3 little pieces there gives him some wiggle room if he's able to pick up the torch. I just never feel comfortable when I know I have 0% chance of finding 30 in one turn, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things with Freeze Mage where he had the opportunity to wait, I think, in this game still.
But if he waited, his turn was so awkward, and so it is really well played, knowing that he could still win with not needing the full 30, playing Emperor there to make the turn for Kolento awkward, and yeah, this is very nice.
So you're either a Freeze Mage player or you're not, right?
I guess so, and Ostkaka's a Freeze Mage player.
Turns out he is, and it's going to be the Shaman against Kolento's Paladin. The series was equalized there by Ostkaka. It started off pretty strong for Kolento. I thought Kolento was going to lock this down, but Ostkaka's been fighting back tooth and nail.
Yeah, well, I would still give the edge a lot to Kolento, and even though it's tied 2-2, just because Ostkaka still has that Patron Warrior deck, and it could be very difficult for him to get a Patron Warrior deck, a win against Kolento's remaining decks.
Well, Kolento has the use for the potential Doom Hammer later on. He's got the Doomsayer, he's got the Pyromancer. Kolento's got cards that will help him stabilize. The Cairn being the only card that's potentially a little bit awkward.
Whoa. Goes out with the Pyromancer super early here, just fighting for the board against the Tunnel Trog. Super
He's forcing
aggressive.
a Lightning Bolt to come out or a Rockbiter weapon.
Yeah, which guarantees the Doomsayer to go off the following turn, I guess?
Yeah,
Pretty
because
much.
the Overload is going to be active, so there's really no way for him to play like a Lava Burst. And then he needs to find another Bolt in order to kill this, because Rockbiter doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Unless he goes double block.
Exactly clear.
Yeah. Rockbiter doesn't do it. Precisely what Kolento was masterminding for. What a genius.
Yeah, it's a pretty cute setup. He does use some valuable resources having to give away the Wild Pyromancer, but that was still just a really beautiful setup to guarantee the Doomsayer to go off. And then he top decks the Solemn Vigil.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
I mean, I said what a genius, but honestly, I don't know if he planned it that way or if it just happened that way, given how marginal the upside was. Because it might have as well have been cleared by Rockbiter on turn 1. Or on turn 2, right? Like instead of Bolt, that might have been Rockbiter instead.
I think it was a really good
That was
play.
great. Yeah, it was really well set up. If he planned this out perfectly, then that was an amazing play.
Yeah. God Lento plays.
For all the talk that Kolento lost his touch with Hearthstone, I think watching him play kind of gives off a different vibe.
Yeah, we'd see most likely Totem Golem Rockbiter come out here.
I'm not an expert, but Totem Golem's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too bad. You overload 1 on your 6 mana turn, so you're going to have 5 mana next turn. Perfect mana to be able to totem play things from below.
Yeah, you'll have the ability to play it for 3 mana after Totem, so you're flooding the board. You've seen a Pyro, so equality Pyro is less likely to happen. Again, one of those valuable resources set up. I mean, thrown away by Kolento early.
Yeah. Well, you see the equality now, but he does not have the Wild Pyromancer any longer, and now he's got the decision between Kodo or True Silver here.
True Silver seems very appealing to me, given the fact that you can probably snipe off the 1/5 afterwards, or if Feral Spirit comes down, that's also another option. And if you have the weapon, then Aldor can still protect you from other big creatures coming out. I think True Silver is the best way to mitigate damage long term.
I don't know. True Silver is charge, Kodo doesn't have charge, so having the Kodo on the board now gives you more potential power to attack things with the following turn.
I see.
There's some argument for it.
Well, Abusive Sergeant can punish that Kodo.
Yeah, that punishes it pretty hard. It allows the things from below able to come out, but Ostkaka just going to allow the things from below to combat the Kodo and push face damage with his Totem Golem, hold back the Abusive for a later turn.
Yeah, this is slightly worse against Consecration, but the upside is you do keep the Abusive for the burst on Argent Horse Rider when you need to trade up, or just push a bit of damage to the Paladin.
Yeah. Knowing that Ostkaka's deck is the Hybrid Shaman, which doesn't contain any draw, there is potential you could see like an equality play here, like that an equality trade Doomsayer. something crazy like that, because then
I don't
Ostkaka's
hate it.
forced
You get to
to-
Karen
yeah.
with Karen on the following turn, and then Tyrion. I mean, get rid of that hybrid shaman. I mean, it's so difficult.
Yeah, the hybrid shaman most likely, unless they exactly have Argent Horse Rider Abusive Sergeant in their hand, has to waste so much damage killing the Doomsayer with spells.
Yeah, he happens to have it, but most of the time that would work out. So I wonder what Kolento's going to go for. There's a chance he throws down the Ooze as a tempo card if he thinks that's something he needs to do, but it just sounds so awkward.
Yeah,
I think
feel
I
like
just
you
prefer
can hold
the
Ooze.
equality play.
Yeah.
Equality trade, Ooze Doomsayer could be hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's just Doomsayer Hero Power. You can beat Doomhammer with your current hand, I think.
Agreed.
You maybe expect them to play Doomhammer to kill your Doomsayer here.
This
And
is
then you
even
have the
better.
Ooze, and then you win.
The bait.
Yeah. But Ostkaka does have an Abusive Sergeant plus the Argent Horse Rider to clear off this Doomsayer, so he's right in it still.
I mean, it's pretty hilarious because you don't want to clear the Doomsayer because the 1/1 kills your totem golem anyway. So what are you really protecting here? Like you're
Well,
committing.
you're
so
protecting tempo. It's pretty huge.
I mean, you're losing your. If this is Stoneclaw, then this is great. But the issue was really like you're protecting a 3/1 for the most part. It is what it feels like in the end.
Yeah, imagine if Kolento just rips Consecrate now. It's so strong.
Did not find it, but still, really good turn for Kolento, regardless of what happens here. So, do you expect Karen to be coming out, leaving 5 damage on board? I think that's a bit too board centric, where you have the option to heal up and keep yourself afloat.
Yeah, just taking as little damage as possible seems to be an ideal situation. And it looks like he is extending the Aldor Peacekeeper. He has seen one Flame Wreath Faceless so far, so he's not expecting the second one to come out, as Ostkaka is still in like the top 20 of his deck. But Ostkaka does happen to have the second Flame Wreath Faceless, which kind of punishes the Tempo Aldor play a little bit.
Yeah, Ragnaros could snipe it off, but the odds are pretty slim. He does get the juggle to hit here, so if he wants to go for trades, which he can, Consecration is the only thing that scares him. He has seen 2 Aldors. There is a humility left in the deck, as we know. So there's not too much left for Kolento to mitigate the 7/7.
He does have Tyrion into N'Zoth, though. That's not too bad. I feel like you want to get that Tyrion down right now, and it sets up your Consecrate if you find it.
Yeah, I like that. You expend your last weapon charge this turn anyway, get the Tyrion out, get a new weapon, and then drop, say, Ragnaros on turn 9. Or Cairn to set up an even better N'Zoth, although I prefer the Rag.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kolento's in a great spot here.
Yeah, if you play the Tyrion now, it gives you a Consecrate as an out to kill the 7/7. It gives you the Humility as an out. So if you run 2 Humilities, it gives you 4 outs to be able to deal with it on the following turn. So it gives you just the most chances to be able to kill it. And he's going to kill the 1/1 here, assuming the 2/3 has to run in anyway. So this way he gets to gain 1 additional life sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good play. Actually, in this exact case, it ends up being... Like, does he end up using the...
Yeah, he ends up using the bolt, so...
So the 2/3 will stick around.
Yeah, 2/3 will live through Consecrate as well, which is a little awkward, but if you have Consecrate, then you got the weapon to clean off the 2/3 anyway, so it's not too bad.
You do want Consecration really quick, though, because this is starting to look ugly, but this Forbidden Healing is going to buy him time. I wouldn't be surprised to just see Rag come down after this. It's either Rag or you go for Cairn, but...
What about Forbidden Healing? You just smack the 7/2
and heal
Forbidden
yourself
Healing.
back to full. Yeah, I don't hate that either.
I think that's the
good.
strongest play here.
I like it. Good call. Then you get Tyrion back anyway next turn after expending a second charge on the Ashbringer. Oh man, N'Zoth Paladin making a comeback in Kolento's hands. This is beautiful. I'm kind of happy because I was sad when everybody dismissed N'Zoth Paladin 1 week and a half into the expansion. It was just the saddest thing. Just, well, yeah, Paladin sucks, guys.
Yeah, we're going to see N'Zoth come down next turn for Kolento, and Ostkaka has to beat Tyrion again. And that's going to be rough.
Did you even bring it out? I feel like you could afford just playing Cairn.
Don't get too greedy. It's still a base Shaman deck.
No, what's going to kill you? Do they play Bloodlust? Ever?
It's a matter of principle, right?
I mean, you do get the Loot Hoarder back from it anyway, so it counts as their board. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
Ostkaka is going to concede, knows full well, full health, a weapon, another weapon, a 5/7, and a 2/1. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
And Kolento left with the Renal Warlock coming up against Ostkaka's Hybrid Shaman. So it's, generally speaking, pretty favored for the hybrid shaman, and then he has left his patron warrior against the Reno Warlock, which is heavily favored for the Reno Warlock.
Yeah.
So Kolento in a good spot to be able to take this series.
And Ostkaka's going to queue up the patron right away.
Yeah. Patron does have some avenues to win the game. They run Inner Rage, which allows the ground combo to come out a little bit faster, which is really... it's pretty good.
It helps you burst the Reno Log before he stabilizes sometimes. But it's kind of the same problem they used to run into when they played Patron Warrior against that deck. Now, this giving life tap would be huge for Ostkaka. And it's not the case. But...
Do you take totems, try and get the battle rage value, or shapeshift for the trade and damage value?
If I had some minions that had high health on the board, I might consider lesser heal. Like the ability is broken for minion wars. The only issue is his minions always have more health than yours, and you don't have any minions in hand at the moment. So
I don't totally hate totems.
I like the lesser heal more than anything else, just because you fight for the board so much better.
And you can heal your patrons out of range of like Demon Wrath. Sure.
Yeah, that's it's a very long-term consideration, and it leads to an immediate loss of doing anything at all on your dead turns, since you really can't even armor up. But the potential for life tap being there really urged the fact that you had to play Finley right away. And there goes a card you're happy to get with lesser heal.
Sure. I guess we just see the War Axe get developed. Not too much action happening here from Ostkaka.
Could see an ooze coming from Kolento. It happens.
It's always the worst feeling when you play War Axe on 2 and they just ooze it.
Yeah, you just keep it for tempo and then never mind.
Yeah.
Develop it quickly. Battle Rage would be pretty sweet soon. You are looking for some kind of card draw because this Warlock is burying you in card disadvantage right now.
Yeah, I imagine we see Armor Smith and just attack with a Finley.
I see Bloodtaker to get on the board.
Huh? Yeah. Okay. You can usually save Bloodtaker for patron combos, though. But yeah, I guess he already has the Inner Rage, so he just feels like he wants to pressure. He knows he's on a clock. He has limited time in the matchup to be able to kill the Reno Lock before they stabilize.
Yeah, and even if you do get the, on the board and pressure them, all it takes is one big minion to deny you everything, because you start to have to trade because you're worried about Shadow Flame. Everything coming together really puts a lot of pressure on the Patron Warrior anyway. So if you go for the Bloodhoof Brave, I mean, dealing with this 4/8 commits a War Axe charge plus, say, Finley plus the 2/2 with Inner Rage, which is horrible. How do you even handle this?
I think you play Bloodhoof Brave and go face and hope it works out.
I think that's the play I'd go for at this stage. I don't really see a way to get out of this one. You have to hope there's no Shadow Flame, no Hellfire, and push.
Yeah, if there is Shadow Flame or Hellfire,
pick Patron up and win.
Is there any way he can clear the Drake that's not just totally horrible? I mean, he could play
Inner Rage on the 2/2, trade up, and Finley, and that kind of does it. But the upside is you get to play the Bloodhoof Brave, and it's uncontested for the time being, right? And that's a pretty scary minion if you go for Inner Rage and heal it up, like afterwards, after you're done pushing, because it keeps the buff forever, and you can keep it healed up throughout the turns thanks to your hero power.
So Ostkaka does play around the Shadow Flame / Hellfire here, and that's very good for him, because if he didn't, he would have gotten blown out for sure. The question is, can he win while playing around it, though? Because now his hand is Inner Rage, and if he's not top-decking playable minions, he's just going to slowly...
He's going to slowly die off.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have much action going on for him right now with 0 mana in his hand.
So when you look at a board or a game and you see that an opponent could beat you down with nothing but Stone Tusk Boars and win the game anyway, that's when you realize you're in a really bad spot. And this is kind of what's happening to Ostkaka right now. Kolento's hand could be a mix of just about anything. Goldshard Footman all the way through, and he would still be able to stabilize on the board at some point.
Yeah,
I feel like Ostkaka, if he doesn't pick up card draw, even picking up Patron is not enough. You have to find the draw.
But if he didn't play around it, he would have lost to the Shadow Flame, so...
Great draw there.
Well played by Ostkaka. Yeah, the Slam really could help him continue cycling. I imagine we see that come out cycling this turn. You can pick up some value with the heal as well. Get his Bloodhoof Brave to be activated as a 5/5.
Yeah, one of the things that he could have chosen to do as well is use the Axe on the 3-1?
No, you want to save your X charge. Just trade in the 2/6 and heal it. Having a weapon up is very powerful.
It's very powerful, yeah.
You'd just be eliminating damage from the board if you trade the weapon here. Just think about interraging it.
So I think you have to interrage your Bloodhoof and push. I mean, that's essentially...
I like that play. That play makes a lot of sense as well. Being able to push the damage. Because he is on a clock and he does not have a lot of fuel in his hand to keep this going. So
Battle
I
Rage
like
does
this.
it, though. Battle Rage is tremendous help in this spot. Leroy could top this. There's the possibility.
What if Kolento just Hellfire Soulfires?
Yeah,
now,
that's what I think.
Ostkaka has no minions left for Battle Rage. How does Ostkaka draw cards and refuel his hand and win the game? He just doesn't.
Yeah, you have to draw a 6-drop. I can't even think of one that would help here.
Yeah,
that exists in his deck, right? That exists. Yeah. It's not...
I think that's the play. Kolento, like, it's not the greatest use of Kolento's resources, because usually you want to save Hellfire for patrons, but it's like, how does my opponent ever make patrons if they have no cards? Like, Ostkaka would be forced to pass for, like, the next 3 turns.
And if they do end up making patrons, do you think Shadow Flame's not going to take care of them? They will at some point. So, like, what's the big loss? If you discard Sylvanas, sure, I'll just play Mountain a turn or 2 from now. I've got the option of Imp Gang Boss. Like, just Hellfire, Soulfire locks down the game so hard in favor of Kolento here.
Just shuts off Battle Rage. Battle Rage only draws 1 card now, and Ostkaka's got nothing going for him. Oh,
Shadow Flame's gone.
Shadow Flame.
Oh, Patron's there, and the AoE's gone.
Oh my god.
There is no way this is happening. The Imp Gang Boss is now with no play. You have to play Sylvanas in order to make sure that this board gets contested all right. But if another AoE comes out, can you imagine this?
The only way that works out in Ostkaka's favor is if the Soulfire pitches the Shadow Flame.
You just keep Sylvanas healed up all day. That's what you do. You heal her back up every single time she tries to die. That would be absolutely insane.
I still think Kolento's in a good spot. He has Bran Argus coming out and things like that, so it's like it's going to be hard for Ostkaka's 1 card a turn to be able to really take care of this, but still, that was an unfortunate series of events there for Kolento.
But the Acolyte of Pain coming out for Ostkaka gives him the potential to find perhaps an extra way to repopulate the board. It's 1 card draw at the very least he's going to be getting, and if Battle Rage comes up, that's another 2 he could get with a patron that's damaged. Now, not accounting for possible AoE effects, there's a lot of potential card draw for Ostkaka looking at this board. But it has to come off the top just about now. And Grom Hellscream. I don't think that's going to work out for you, Ostkaka.
Kolento's just going to build this wall of taunts and most likely deny a patron.
Yeah,
there is some argument to deny the card draw, right? But denying the patron feels a little bit safer.
I agree. I mean, he does have to take care of Sylvanas as soon as possible, which is now, and lose the patron in the process. And without an execute, Ostkaka is staring down at Bran, who's going to get activated twice, no matter what Kolento ends up playing. And looking at this, he needs to find a Battle Rage off the top, damage his Frothing next turn, find an execute off of the Battle Rage, kill the Bran, and War Axe down to 2-3 left, and that's assuming there's nothing else coming down.
Yeah, usually the player that has the longer, more complicated game plan is at a disadvantage. Because if we compare that in contrast to Kolento's game plan here, it's just don't die. So and
he leaves. Ostkaka leaves. He sees that even assuming the best case scenario, the win is still very, very far away. One more minion would have done it, and 4-2 again in favor of Kolento in this match against Ostkaka. So that's the second time he wins with the exact same score, and that means Kolento will be facing off against Stan Sivka in the final of the day to see who ends up going out of the bracket A of the last chance bracket for the StarLadder I-League Season 2. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be back with the last match right after a short break, so it shouldn't be too long. The match may be long, Stan Sivka being who he is, but it'll be enjoyable. At least the games have been good. Stay tuned.
Of the ones from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness, their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old gods.